I guess I couldn't avoid this forever. I owe someone a review of Amnesia, and I wish I'd done this before playing the game because, God, this adaptation is awful. When I first watched it, I could see where it might have had some appeal to some people, and I found it kind of endearing in a weird way. Sort of like a monkey drinking its own pee. Like, you don't see a monkey every day, so monkeys are cool, but man, I really wish it wasn't drinking its own pee. So this is how I'm going to lead up to Valentine's Day this year, because who even likes romance, am I right? Every day this week we're going to look at a different character arc up until Friday, where I will cleanse my mind by watching something else. But this adaptation is a fucking mess, and I can't put it any other way. So for this Amnesia special, we're going to go episode by episode and pick it apart. Really get into the nitty gritty and examine everything it gets wrong and the few things that it does get right. So, spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the anime or played the game and you want to do either of those, go ahead and do that and then come back here. I can recommend the game for those of you willing to put the 40-ish hours into all of the routes, but I don't recommend the anime. I can say I won't be spoiling any of the good ends for the characters in the game though, just the non-canonical bad ends. So let's start off with the first episode and how bad this is as an introduction. We're gonna forget about the scene with the burning church and the drowning because sure, it can try to do foreshadowing, I don't care, whatever. Weirdly, it starts on August 4th, which is 3 days after the heroine has lost her memories. I guess it does a good job of giving the viewer the same sense of confusion that she has and not giving everything away right from the get-go, but why doesn't she remember Orion? She loses her memory on August 1st in every route of the game, but why did they make her forget everything again on August 4th for the anime? It makes everything ridiculously chaotic and confusing, with every character coming in and being like, "Hi heroine, I heard you aren't well. Who are these people? Why is everyone suddenly gathering around her and freaking her out when she clearly fainted at work?" I don't understand why they made this change at all. It's not like they delay the explanation enough to justify this messy beginning. The game starts off in the space between worlds, which is in the conclusion of the anime. But why didn't they start it there before so that we could get a proper explanation of what's going on? It doesn't do anything to enhance the mystery that they were clearly trying for, it just makes it confusing and hard to keep up with. So Orion, this spirit that she's obviously terrified by, accidentally crashed into the heroine and he became merged with her soul, which pushed out her memories, which is why she has amnesia. That's one thing that they didn't really change, which is cool. So the heroine needs to regain her memories to push Orion out so that she can go back to living normally and Orion can do whatever it is that Orion does. The catch is that if she can't regain her memory, she's likely to forget how to do things like drink water or breathe. Orion is super prominent in the game, basically being the heroine's inner voice, saying what he thinks about the boys in question and giving the heroine ideas of how to regain her memories. He's actually really helpful and really likeable, especially in Ikki's route. But in the anime, he just pops up from time to time and the heroine is mostly left to do whatever she wants, which would be fine, but she doesn't have an inch of personality. Like Orion says, her personality flew off with her memories. She's just bland and it's kind of annoying. The only thing that she ever really says are things like, and yes, until later on in the series. She's not interesting to watch and they go way too far to try and give the viewer opportunities to project themselves onto her. I mean, they don't even give her a canonical name in the anime, having most of the characters refer to her as, "Hey you," instead of giving her a name. Oh, sorry, yeah, we took away Haruhi's name in the Orion adaptation because we don't have faith in our viewers and their ability to relate to a character that doesn't have the same name as them. I get that some people like that she doesn't have a name because you can project yourself onto her and pretend that you have these pretty boys swooning over you instead, but I think as a viewer I find it more insulting that they think I can't do that with a character that has a personality. Sure, the game doesn't give her much of a personality either, but that's why Orion was so important. Orion, who is barely in the anime and one of the things that made the game actually good. Regardless, we spend the first 2 episodes of this anime just floating around in some section that isn't in the game. It's just the heroine wandering between characters and remembering things from other alternate worlds. Why does this make sense? Why would she remember things that never happened to her? It's implied that the heroine in each separate world is a completely separate entity. They all have different backstories and relationships. For example, in Shin's route, Toma just acts like a big brother, whereas in the Ikki route, Toma was actually the heroine's legal stepbrother. So why does this make any sense? So she remembers going to a festival with Kent, she remembers Shin apparently admitting to murder, but none of those things have ever happened to her. And one of those things didn't even happen to her in an alternate world. So this introductory arc ends towards the end of episode 2. Before then though, she meets a mysterious man with long green hair. Oh, I wonder who he is. I'm sure I would have had more questions about this character had he not been so heavily featured in the opening sequence, clearly bunched together with the other 4 more obvious love interests. But this arc ends with the group taking a trip to the mountains, the heroine getting freaked out by Shin because she has this false memory of him admitting to murder, and she runs away. Right off a cliff. I'm not sure if this was supposed to be a nod to one of the plot points in Shin's route or not, but I'm gonna say that it was, and it's actually kind of cool if so. She then wakes up in this hospital on August 1st, and we in the Shin route, oh baby. I'm not particularly thrilled about the way they chose to go about the switch in routes. Instead of just picking one to adapt and then maybe moving back to the space between worlds and making up some excuse like, this isn't the world that you belong in, or something equally as bullshit, she just jumps in between realities with no real reason. Like, we get a reason at the end of the show, but it's not even that good. But the reason that the show actually gives us is that she keeps dying in one world and jumping to another one when she does. Hence why her falling off of a cliff brought us to Shin's story. I don't like this at all. I just don't, and you can't convince me that this is a good way to adapt a visual novel. Yeah, the game can get dark, but the heroine very rarely dies unless you're in the final route, so why did they choose to do this? Anyway, Shin's arc is a disappointment, but one of the easier ones to digest. It starts off in a hospital after an accident that she clearly doesn't know anything about, though she does remember falling off a cliff in a previous world, but that isn't the reason that she's in the hospital, and she never questions if that's the reason that she's there. Shin realizes immediately that she's got some kind of amnesia going on and tries his best to help her regain her memories, but so little is brought up about the accident that left her hospitalized. In the game, the whole of Shin's route is about figuring out what the hell actually happened on the night of the accident, and it's really quite intriguing. And there isn't really anything about that in the anime, and that's because they gave each character so little time. Most characters get 2 episodes. Shin isn't one of the exceptions, and his arc comes and goes without any real impact. Though it does become apparent that the heroine does retain her memories from the previous worlds that she's been in, as she remembers Shin's murder confession, though that isn't actually what happened. Shin didn't kill anyone, Shin's father killed someone, okay? I liked Shin's route a lot, but it's very watered down in the anime. It removes all of the interesting things that made Shin's route quite unique, and instead settles for a standard character arc that you see in these shows where it just tries to show off the best part of the characters that people might find attractive. It's one of the better parts of the shows, and it's topped off with a kiss, so I guess that shows progression. That is until the heroine gets hit by a truck and we're thrown into an alternate world. We're back at August 1st and stuck head first into Ikki's route.